Karen upset about kids playing outside. So this is my first post here. Been trying to find a good subreddit to post it on for a while, lol. For context, I am a 21 years old female. I'm on mobile, so I apologize now for any typos or weird layout. I was driving home after work around 5 p.m. a couple of months ago. It was light outside and unusually warm for the fall. So as I pulled into my subdivision and drove extra slow because some of the neighborhood kids were riding bikes in the street, others playing catch in their yards etc. Normal. It's a nice day play outside kid stuff. As I slowly drove down the street, being careful not to hit any of the kids and waving at some of the neighbors I knew, I came to my street. Up until this point, everything seemed normal. I had to turn left to go down my street into my house and unfortunately could not do so. A woman was standing in the middle of the road along with a man on the other side of it in his yard. The women around 40 to 50 with about shoulder-length brown hair with gray streaks. The man around 30 to 40 bald, with a full beard. The woman was very well dressed, standing near a charcoal-colored big expensive-looking SUV. And the man, who I knew as he was a friend of my stepmother, had no shirt on, but had jeans and no shoes. Imagine a shorter middle-aged woman and a big buff bald biker dude. He does in fact have 2 motorcycles. The woman was screaming at the man, and since I had my windows down and my sunroof open, I could hear everything word for word. Though it's been a while since this has happened and I don't remember everything said, I do remember the gist of the conversation going something like this, but please take it with a grain of salt as this is not verbatim. Woman: you people need to get these kids out of the street. I couldn't get through with my car. I have to leave again and am in a hurry. Man, slightly agitated by the woman's yelling, but keeping his cool pretty well. What do you want me to do about it? They aren't even my kids. It's a nice day. Why are you so upset by kids playing outside anyway? Taking a few extra seconds to drive down the street isn't going to make you late. Woman, more angry now and approaching the man with her fists balled up. I don't care if they're your kids. Get them out of the street so I can leave again. Man, starting to lose his cool again. They aren't my kids and I cannot control them. The only reason I came over from my own porch is because I saw you were yelling at my neighbor's daughter while playing hopscotch on her own driveway. Woman: well, she was screaming and laughing too loud and the girl with her ran into the street in front of me, to which I had to slam on the brakes. Man, now obviously very angry. I watched you yell at her from your car. Her sister did not run into the street except to ask you what was wrong and went right up to your window. The girl you were yelling at is 10, and her sister, who you accused of running into the road, is 16, and from what I could tell was very concerned and polite. You even drove past them to park your SUV on the street, then come back on foot to berate them some more. Woman, visibly embarrassed by being caught in a lie, but still too angry to admit this. Well, the other kids are on bikes, and as I pulled in, almost hit one of them as they rode right in front of me across the street. Get them out of here so I can leave. Man, slowly approaching the woman, so they are face to face instead of her yelling from the middle of the road. Now they were both there. That's when he seemed to notice me and waved. As I said, we knew each other. Woman seems agitated by this, gives me the middle finger, then proceeds to yell at the man some more. I can't remember what she said, and then spits at his foot. Man, did you just try to spit on me? Woman, acting completely innocent of this, of course not. Why would I do that? Man, looks down at foot. My foot is wet. You definitely spit at me. What is your problem? They are kids, and you are overreacting. It's a nice day, let them have their fun. All you have to do is be careful. Is that really so hard? Woman continues yelling obscenities and calling the man names and tries to throw a punch. Man avoids said punch, holding his hands up in defense, trying to no avail to calm her down. That's when I noticed not 1, not 2, but 3 police cars, one an SUV, pull up behind me. I guess one of the other parents thought a fight was going to break out and called the police. That's when they finally moved out of the way, and I was able to continue down my street to my house. No idea what set this woman off, but spoke to the man about it around a week later, where he said that she was arrested for public intoxication as she was drunk when arguing to him, and also got a DUI as several witnesses saw her driving down the street before the argument, and she had gotten out of her car and directly went over to the girls with no time to take a swig, so she had to have already been drunk, which means she was driving that way. I don't know if any of the charges stuck, as that seems pretty circumstantial to me, but who knows? I found this all pretty entertaining afterwards and recounted it to my parents afterwards. And though it doesn't really directly involve me, I was a sitting duck just witnessing all this. Have never seen this woman again, but do see her SUV from time to time, though I've always seen a man driving it, who I assume is her husband, as I was sitting there long enough to memorize the plate and know for sure it's her car. Now to the next story, Story 2. Dog Mom Karen. I work for an unspecified store that sells pet supplies and that also has a groomer and a mobile veterinarian that comes to this store once a week to provide preventative care for pets, including vaccines and parasite prevention. I was helping check in a guest for their veterinary appointment and was instantly met with a rushed Karen who claimed needed a rabies vaccine for their pet because their pet had a grooming appointment in 5 minutes. I took a second to inform the client that it is this store's policy that they don't do grooming appointments within 24 hours of a vaccine being given for the safety of the pet, and she snapped at me, telling me the grooming department didn't tell her that. So I told her I was trying to prepare her, as the grooming department probably will tell her that. I asked if Karen or her husband, knew when the pet's last rabies vaccine was given to determine their immunity for their next vaccine, and they did not have a record of it or know the information. Karen said the grooming department should have that information, so I elected to go and get the information from the other side of the store. The groomer was on the phone, so I had to wait a minute, and by the time I asked for the pet's information, Karen was next to me. She interrupted and asked if her pet can get the groom without the vaccine, to which both the groomer and I responded no, because it's against policy, and that upset Karen, so she said the dog needed a flea bath more than a rabies vaccine, so she is okay with her pet receiving a vaccine on the same day as a grooming. She then expected us to perform those services for her. Again, we both said that was against our store policy, and she turned and looked directly at me and told me she wasn't speaking to me. I stopped speaking but continued standing there. The groomer said no, and again Karen was upset, so said it was impossible, her pet hadn't gotten groomed in 2 to 3 months, and the groomer informed her she had canceled her previously scheduled appointments. Karen suddenly turned to me and asked aggressively, "Why are you smiling?" So I told her calmly that I felt her reaction to the situation was greater than what was warranted. But I wasn't smiling out of spite. I am just a happy person and have been in customer service so long a smile is permanently printed on my face at work. Anyways, she told me I was being extremely disrespectful, so I told her it was actually the other way around. She marched off 10 feet away and called her husband, who was still at my check-in stand, to have him come leave with her. Bye-bye, Karen. I turned to the groomer and told them I hoped the rest of their workday goes well, and that's how I started my morning shift. The funny part of the situation is that the clinic could have gotten her pet vaccinated and given it oral medication to solve a flea problem better than a flea bath would do, and all they would have to do is wait one day for another grooming appointment if the dog needed anything else. Some people are their own worst enemies. Anyways, I probably would have refused service to her anyways after the way she was treating me and the groomer. People shouldn't get rewarded for treating random people poorly. Next story, Story 3. Advice? XGF had an emotional affair and is now with him. My now XGF had an emotional affair with another guy for the last few months of our relationship. We had been together for the first 6 months of our relationship and then had to go long distance as she went away to college upstate about 3 hours away from me, and I had to move to Tennessee, meaning we were still apart even if she went home. She insisted we could make this work, which I was hesitant about at first since it was a relatively young relationship, but we gave it a shot. And honestly, it was going pretty good until we got into about October of 2023. She had just come to TN to visit me and my family, and everything seemed to go great and she hit it off with them. But then a week later, she told me that she thinks we should probably break up. We got on a FaceTime call, and she told me she felt herself catching feelings for another guy because of the distance, and that they had been talking a lot behind my back about a possible future together and some other things. I kinda was stupid and realized that she hadn't done anything, so I told her I forgave her, and because I knew long distance would be hard, I fought for us to continue our relationship for days. She finally did agree, and it honestly got better and they stopped talking. Or so I thought. Turns out, they did stop talking, but only for about a month. When I eventually found out, I was told they just couldn't stop talking to each other, and it was one person wanting it to stop and then the other not. This really confused me. At the time in December and January that year, we were in a great place with her still putting in a good amount of effort and promise into us. She would still make dates and everything. I checked her Snap in February and noticed something was wrong. He was her number 2 best friend, and they only had a streak for a week, while I was her number 1 with a 540-day streak. They, later I found out, had apparently been going and doing things one-on-one together behind my back as well. Our anniversary came up on February 18th, and I went to go see her. She said she wanted to talk about our relationship because she felt like it was doing worse, and that my lack of effort and me being controlling and unmotivated was part of that, which just simply wasn't true. I had no more than $300 in my account and still went to go see her. I had a job and was studying for my personal trainer exam, which you passed a few months ago. But then I realized this was all so I got more blame and she didn't. She broke up with me 3 days later and called me about 4 times over the span of the next month, changing her mind that it could work and then back to it couldn't. The last day we had a call was March 25th, where she cut me off completely, saying she didn't want me as a friend or anything more again. The next day she got with him. The last time I saw her was June 1st, because she asked for a conversation to give us both closure by only after she found out I knew she was with the guy she had cheated on me with. Even then, the whole time it seemed like she was making crappy excuses for why they are together, and even wore his hoodie to our meetup. It was weird though. She seemed to actually have a ton of guilt over what happened. I did get some nice apologies, and she was tearing up a little after I told her what I had been through processing the breakup, and even watched me as I drove away. She has also lost all of her friends from this, quit her job, lost her roommate, wants to leave her college, and because her dad knows the truth and her mom did something incredibly similar to him. It seems like she almost has to pour everything into this relationship to make it work and to not feel alone. I could be overthinking it, but last I heard she wanted to leave her college, and her only reason for staying there was because he was there. She posts him a lot more than she did me too, and her dad told me they are extremely touchy around each other, like his hand in between her inner thighs in front of her family. There is more details to this, but I summed it up best I could. Does anyone have any advice for getting over the betrayal and hurt? And is this clearly a rebound destined to fail, or does she actually love him? Next story, Story 4. I stole close to $40K from a gas station I worked at as a teenager. When I was 16, I got my first job. The year was 2013. Minimum wage where I was for students was $7.50, and for adults was $10.50. I worked at a gas station. It was full serve. People would come in, and I'd be the guy to run the whole store and pump gas. Just me. I had access to the cameras and to the servers in case we had any drive-offs. Someone pumps gas and drives off without paying. Because this was a chain of gas stations, they did all their counts based on all the stores in the city. They had something like 15 stores in the city I lived in. Head office was located 12 hours from where the store was. I started by taking 50 every night. After about 2 months of that, stealing about $3,000, no one said anything. So I raised the stakes. Started taking 500 every few days or every few weeks, and was able to do this because I'd purposefully make the final count of the profits that day 500 less than what it actually was. When someone would pay for something inside and didn't ask for a receipt ID, just cancel the transaction and pocket the money instead. ID then disconnect the server that was connected to the computer controlling the cameras so it wouldn't save any footage. No one noticed, so I kept going and kept putting it away. After about 3 years of me doing this, taking 500 every few days or every few weeks, I had racked up about 40,000. I came clean to my dad about what I was doing, and he took the 40,000 and laundered the money into his own business. Made up a bunch of fake cash recipes set years ago for his business and gave me back the money as a gift to the CRA, so they wouldn't take any of it. That way it looked like my father was giving me a down payment for a house. The whole point of him doing this was so I could have a down payment on a house after high school where they wouldn't think it's suspicious an 19-year-old kid has 40K in cash and question where I got it. I got the mortgage and kept doing what I was doing. I started putting the money into the stock market, as per my dad's advice, and turned a lot of it into a ton of profit. I got lucky with my stocks and paid off my $280,000 house at 21 and have traveled to 4 countries with the excess money I made from the stock market. After all was said and done, I gave my notice because I didn't want someone to find out and moved on to better work while renting out my basement for $800/month back then. Now I rent it for $1,750. None of this would have been possible if I didn't steal the money. I know it's wrong and a good thing to do, but I looked at my life and saw how well these companies were doing while everyone around me was barely surviving on their wages and decided I didn't want to do that. I took a risk and it paid off. This is nothing but a confession. I'm not going to tell all of you to do it. I won't go further than saying how amazing it is for me now that I got away with all of it. Obviously, you shouldn't steal. But I didn't see a problem with it, considering the company who owned this chain were millionaires, maybe richer. Oddly, I feel proud about what I did. I don't feel guilty for it at all. I stole a ton of money from a multi-million-dollar company so I could get a good head start in life, and it worked out amazingly for me. I just know I can't tell any of my friends or anyone outside my dad in my personal life for obvious reasons. So I'm telling all of you. It feels good to tell people, even if it is anonymous. Last story, story 2. Married 5 years, together 11. I met my wife just 1 month before I moved from Illinois to California, when I was 25 and she was 30. Having lived in small-town USA my whole life, I yearned to experience the hustle and bustle of city life and enjoy a warmer climate. We were set up on a blind date by a mutual friend and instantly formed a strong connection. The attraction was palpable. Shortly after, she moved to Pennsylvania to attend grad school, and we left things up in the air. We agreed that if we stayed in touch over the 2 years she was in school, we would take our relationship to the next level. Although I wanted to explore the dating scene in San Diego, I couldn't shake the feeling that this long-distance romance could turn into something real. She visited me whenever she could, and we made it work. Soon, she graduated, and we moved in together. Both of us held very demanding jobs that we hoped would evolve into meaningful careers. We climbed the professional ladder almost in sync. If I received a promotion, she was close behind, and vice versa. However, with each new title, our responsibilities grew. I decided to go back to school to advance my career and, more importantly, to earn a living wage that would help us keep up with the high cost of living. My wife supported me through it, though it put a strain on our relationship. I then decided I needed another degree to be unstoppable. She went along with it, but this time, I felt her support dwindling. In 2023, our jobs became unbearable, and we started drinking more and more to cope. Desperate for a change, I decided to take a job back in Illinois, hoping to reset my mind and become grounded once again. I was excited for some downtime and new career experiences, as this new job would add engineering skills to my resume. My wife was upset but understood. I negotiated more vacation time to visit her every 2 months, and after 2 years, she could either join me in Illinois or I would move back. 3 weeks ago, she called to tell me she had cheated on me. She slept with her former employee. I asked who made the first move, and she said it was her. I then asked if she was in love, to which she also said yes. Finally, I asked if she wanted a divorce, and she said maybe. I'm devastated and unsure how things escalated so quickly. She said resentment had built up over the years and that her coworker treated her much better than I had. I admitted it was because of my drinking and vowed to never drink again. I stopped cold turkey and am now 21 days sober.